On this week's episode of Three Dad Bods.
And I was sitting in what felt like in a movie theater watching this scene play out in front of me. But it was weird because the scene was being filmed from the ceiling looking down, not like a normal movie would.
Sarcastic, witty, and not afraid to mix it up. Pop open a cold one and welcome to Three Dad Bods.
Welcome everybody to another edition of Three Dad Bods with Brent, Karl, and Sean. We've got a couple special guests here with us today. We've got Alan and Vinny joining us. Welcome, guys.
Hey, everybody.
Thanks for having us.
Cool. So, Alan, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, and then I'll let you go ahead and do the introductions for Vinny, if you don't mind.
Okay, sounds great. I'm Alan Smith. I happen to be Sean's older brother. And
Notice
Vinny,
he said older and not bigger.
Better looking,
well,
probably.
Older, smarter, better put
all the
together.
above. Yeah,
I have better
Skinnier.
shoes.
You were genetically the best specimen. That's the difference, right?
Well, you know, after the first one, you just get leftovers. So
That's good. That's good.
That's true.
You owe him one now, Sean. All right.
it just is what it is, right?
I
So
agree with that.
that's who I am. And I'm friends with Vinny. So
Yeah, tell us about Vinny. Tell kind of set the stage.
Vinny and I met about 7 years ago. We were at a men's retreat in southern Utah at a friend's ranch. And we just were sitting at the main house, sitting on the front porch, looking at the gorgeous view and talking about life and about all those things. And he shared with me his experience of dying and coming back. And it immediately changed me from the inside out. I had this different hope that I didn't have before. I had this different thought process that I didn't have before. And it changed the trajectory of who I am and the life that I'm living and the path that I'm on.
That's pretty. Yeah. I listened to the book
Cool,
too
man.
on the way to Monticello 2 weeks ago. Vinny, fantastic story. And yeah, I was really excited to have you know that you're coming on the program too with us. So I can't wait to hear the story in person.
Yeah, so moving forward with that, you know, Vinny and I and another person named Lynn have spent the last 4 years meeting once a week. And Lynn and Vinny worked hard and put together Vinny's story into a book.
Oh, wow.
Wow. So how long ago did your book come out?
Came out a little over a year ago, so about a year and a few months. So it's been
Nice.
out for a year and change, yeah.
And tell us the
Cool,
name of
man.
the book, Vinny, so our audience knows too.
Yeah, it's called The Light After Death. It is, I have one right here. There we go. It's called The Light
Oh.
After Death. And it wouldn't have been written unless we had a really good cattle prod named Alan Smith. And he was part of our motivation and accountability to make sure that we were maintaining progress and maintaining our own success and goals with the book, because we'd been working on it a long time, and it's really hard to put into words something that words can't describe. So that was the hardest part, but we got it done. Took us a while, but we got it done.
And you
Must
have a
be-
second book coming out soon too, right?
We do. We have a second one coming out. We're working on it right now. We're just in the finishing touches on it. Should be coming out the end of this year, beginning of next.
Sweet.
You know, must be something about Smiths because Sean is our pain in the ass too. So
It runs in the family, I guess.
It-
He
it
keeps
must
us on
be.
the straight and narrow, that's for sure.
We had a really good example to draw from.
He was first, Sean. That's all that matters.
All right,
well,
Vinny,
tell us-
why don't
tell
you
us,
kind of tell us what happened?
Yeah.
So, this all happened back in 2003, and back then, I was very much into bodybuilding and getting my single bod hot for the ladies. That's what I was working on, is making my body as healthy and as good looking as possible. And in that process, me and my best friend at the time, we discovered a supplement that really helped you with that process. It allowed you to work out the same muscle group every day without doing a rest day or a rest 2 day. So, you could work out your chest every day, your arms every day on this supplement. And it was interesting. It was a quasi-natural supplement, because once you took it, it converted into something else and helped your body recover with your muscle tissue a lot faster than normal, about twice as fast as normal. And the supplement, it was so popular, you couldn't find it anywhere else at the time. Everywhere was sold out for about 6 months. You were on a 6-month waiting list for any of this stuff. And we found online a company in Thailand. It was a brand new company, and they had just started selling it. And so we ordered ourselves a bottle. And when it came, we didn't open it right away. We waited a couple of days till it was the weekend. We knew that if you got a little too much of this stuff, it would affect you. So we got a good day where we were both off from work, and we opened the bottle. We smelled it. Everything smelled like normal. And so we each took a liquid bottle cap of this stuff. But what we didn't know is the Thailand stuff was 20 times stronger than the American stuff. So it was like taking 20 bottle caps of the American stuff to do one bottle cap of this. So instantly, right away, within seconds of both of us taking it, in hindsight, one of us should have just taken it and the other one watched. But we were both invincible and 25 years old, so we didn't think that we needed to do that. We both took a dose and felt sick right away. And the first thing we thought was, maybe if we go get something to eat, that's going to help us out, make us feel better.
Right.
So we headed down the street to the local Dairy Queen, which is only a few blocks away from his place. And we make it in there. I went straight into the bathroom, and that bathroom, Karl, you know the Dairy Queen I'm talking about. In that bathroom, you go right in. It's a single use. So I walked in and locked the door, and my buddy, he went in and collapsed on one of the booths. And where he collapsed on one of the booths, he started to vomit all over the table there. So they came and ascertained him, called 911, and got emergency services out there. They were able to get him carted off in an ambulance right away, just to the hospital across the way there. Meanwhile, nobody saw us come in together. And about 45 minutes later, a customer came to the manager and said, "Hey, that bathroom's been locked for about an hour and I need to go in there. Can you open it?" So the manager went over, unlocked the bathroom, only to see a dead body on the floor. And from my perspective, I went straight from being in my body and feeling really dizzy to all of a sudden it felt like, boom, I was plunged into this like cool but warm liquid. And I was sitting in what felt like in a movie theater watching this scene play out in front of me. But it was weird because the scene was being filmed from the ceiling looking down, not like a normal movie would, in front of people, but from above them looking down. And funny sense is I had actually used to work in TV and film. And so I was looking at this thinking, this is such an interesting choice of the director. I don't think he's going to win any awards by shooting this film, looking down at people's heads. And on top of that, could also, yeah, I could also hear the thoughts of everybody in the restaurant. Everybody. I could hear audibly out loud every thought that was in that vicinity of the body. And I thought that was weird too. Like, why are they doing this? This is so congested and I can hear everybody talking all at the same time. That doesn't make sense. Why are they doing this? And so I was really caught up in the moment thinking it was some type of weird entertainment. And even though I just watched them cart off my buddy and I recognized him, but I didn't recognize me. I looked down and saw that body and thought, well, that can't be me because I'm right here. I'm up here watching, And I saw them discover the body. I saw them call 911 again. I saw the ambulance come, and they came in and did some chest compressions, but they gave up right away. The body was already cold by the time they got there, like cold to the touch. So they felt that, don't kick a dead horse, pretty much. They felt that the soul was gone, the body was dead. So they went ahead and bagged it up. They put it in an ambulance. And this is the weird part, is they had a rookie. He was in his training week. He had just gotten through like all his orientation and whatever you do as a medic. He was through all that, and now he was like shadowing these two these two veteran medics, and he was a rookie. So part of his job was to babysit the body when it was in the ambulance. So they put him and the body in the ambulance while they went around and got a bunch of paperwork filled out by anybody who witnessed anything. Even witnessing the other guy who had come in, which was my best friend. So they got a bunch of that paperwork all filled out. Took quite a while. I mean, even from my perspective, I could tell it took quite a while. But this whole time, this rookie was back there staring at this body bag, and he just kept having these thoughts like, why aren't we trying? There's all this time I could have been trying, and it doesn't hurt anybody. Why can't I try? Like, why am I even becoming a medic if I can't help people like this? And he just kept having those kind of thoughts again and again. And they finished the paperwork. They traded paperwork with a police officer who ended up showing up. They pulled away from the scene. When they had just pulled away, and they were on 800, but not yet to State Street. Right then, this glow started to form around the heart space of this rookie. And it was really interesting because he was kind of looking down and feeling bad, but this really like bronzy yellow looking light was starting to come out of where his shirt was, like coming out as if there was a flashlight inside. And out of nowhere, I feel this really strong force go over me, and I hear this loud voice say, "This one's not dead." And I knew he heard it too, because he like froze when he heard it. But then I heard his thought, "That's just your imagination. That wasn't anything." He looked around, and he did think for a second maybe that was one of these other medics trying to mess with him.
He heard it. He
heard it. Yeah, he heard it. Like,
wow.
he definitely reacted as if he heard it. And then this glow, it just got brighter and brighter. And then a second time it came through, "This one's not dead." And the second time it was so strong and so assertive, the energy itself, he instantly like took action. He thought about it for a millisecond, and then he was like, "I got to do something." So he worked really fast because he knew he'd get in trouble. He knew that this was breaking protocol. He undid a strap that was across the neck and across the chest. He unzipped the body bag. He was feeling all over. He couldn't feel any signs of life. He had to undo another strap, unzip the body bag even further down to reach down on the femur, on the leg. There's a big artery there, so he wanted to see if there's any sign of life, even down near that femur or femoral artery. So as he was feeling around there, he was, the body was in a horrible state, and the muscles were getting very tense and almost hardened. So he had to push really hard to try to feel for these arteries. And as he did, there was some type of connection that he made to the femur bone or something solid in the leg. And as he made that connection, I actually felt a spark, like a true spark. And I've messed around with car batteries and such, and it was like that. It was like as much as a spark you would get from a car battery. It was significant. I felt it where I was, and I knew he felt it because he like jolted with it. And as soon as he felt that, though, that was enough of a sign for him that he went ahead and started to force oxygen into the lungs, and he hooked up a defib machine so he could start doing defib, which is shocking the heart. On the first round of shocks, nothing. Second round of shocks, he got a single heartbeat. But on the third round of shocks, he got a steady heartbeat. It was faint, but it was steady. And by then, those other two medics were really razzing him, saying, by the time that the defib machine was making the alarm noise, they were made aware of what he was doing, and they were really going after him, tearing him up, saying, "You're going to get fired already." But he still kept doing it. He pushed through, and after that third round of shocks, he got the heart to come back.
They probably went, "Oh crap!" when they saw the machine.
They did.
What would you get fired for? I mean, like, what's the worst that could happen to you? You know?
Well, and here's the thing: they did. And after this whole experience, I did get a chance to go to lunch with him and thank him. And I wanted to do something for him. He wouldn't allow me to do anything for him. He did say that he was in quite a bit of heat with the medic company the emergency services he was working with. And so he was actively getting transferred to the fire department. And he had just tested for fire at the time. So he was good with the transfer, and he liked the fact that motivated him to get out of EMS so that he could get into fire. And so that was a good move for him. Yeah, exactly.
I have a couple of questions, Vinny, too. While you were hovering, did you actually feel when they put you in the ambulance your spirit or body moving with the body? Like,
I didn't. Well, I knew that I couldn't. In the process of all this going on, when they took my buddy away from the restaurant, from the Dairy Queen, I actually tried to follow and go with him. And after I got only about 50 feet away from the restaurant, I felt this like pulling me back. So it's almost like there was some type of energy field
to the body.
Yeah, there was. So I think that definitely I wasn't fully crossed over yet because I was attached to it. I wasn't allowed to leave it yet. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
So when you were looking, down at yourself, and when you were following him out to the ambulance and stuff, is it only like an eyesight thing, or were you able to see something more of you? You know what I mean? Or is it just like you said, just like watching a movie?
Is your consciousness is your navigator at that point. So anything I wanted to see, I was like instantly right there seeing it. So if I wanted to get close to see if this rookie was going to do anything about this body in front of him, I was like instantly right there in front of him, and I could see him really close, face to face. And then as soon as I got whatever I felt I needed, I was back to this hovering view up above the scene. But I really didn't know I was dead at all until they transferred the body from the EMT gurney into the hospital gurney. And in that process of transferring, the body started to go through convulsions and seizures, and it was vomiting at the same time. So there was a lot going on for that body. And as that was all going on, the medical team, they made the decision, or one of the doctors made a decision to restrain the body so they could work on it. And I didn't feel him restrain the legs. I didn't feel him restrain the right arm. But when they went to restrain the left arm, I felt someone restraining me, and I resisted. And in fact, I looked down to see why my left arm was getting restrained, and I was seeing the left arm of the body. And I was seeing them actually restraining it with the straps. And I broke through it. I actually broke the first strap they put on the left arm. And then they came back with a big strap and put it on the left arm. So I had, 3 big straps and then a regular one on my right arm. So, I witnessed all that. And at that point, I had this really scary moment that everything that I've been witnessing was my own death. And that was just freaky. So weird. Because you don't ever think your whole life you're going to experience something like this, ever. I mean, religion doesn't prepare you. Movies don't even prepare you. Like, nothing prepares you for having this wake up that you're watching your own death. And as soon as that happened, all this fear started flooding in from all around me. And I had these thoughts like, you're such an idiot. How could you be watching your own death and not even know this was you? And so I was going down that path of kind of negative talk or negative self-talk. And as that was happening, all of a sudden I started shifting and seeing every bad thing I ever did my whole life, even from a little toddler on up to my age. I saw every single bad thing I ever did, including seeing it from my perspective, but also from their perspective, from the outside person's perspective. And I just felt, wow, you're, to put it frankly, you're quite a piece of bleep, what the value do you have? Look at all this that you did. And as soon as I had that thought, and I almost had this feeling like, you know what, Vinny, you're not even worth existing. And out of that thought came all of a sudden this warmth. This warmth started to come from behind me, and it started with my back, the middle of my back, of what would be my back. And this warmth started to overtake me. And as it started to overtake me, I then started to see all the good things I ever did in my life. And the same way that I was seeing it from my eyes, but also the eyes of who received it, I got to see that with the good stuff too. And as I did, I saw that there was way more, so much more good that I ever did bad. And not just that, I saw many times when I didn't even know I was doing good. And I was just following a prompting, or I was following my gut instinct and doing certain things, and come to find out it was for this, it was for that. It was to serve and to help others. And it was really an amazing experience, because as all this fear stuff came into me, it got flushed or pushed out by all this love energy, all of this, you're worth it. Look at all this good that you've done. And then I started to realize that all of this love energy was coming from behind me. So I turned around to see, and here's this figure that looks just like God. What I thought God would look like. It just, this man standing there, he looks just like God. He's all dressed in white. He has this
like Alan? Looks kind of like Alan right now.
Oh no.
Okay, sorry.
Maybe,
I had to throw
maybe
that
a
in.
little taller. Maybe a little taller.
A little taller.
Probably a lot taller.
Yeah, probably a lot taller. Shut
More
up,
muscles. I'll bet there's a lot more hair there too.
Sorry, you were in a flow, Vinny. Go ahead.
No worries. So yeah, he was this great being that looked like God to me, and I had this thought, you must be God. And the first thing that came back instantly was, no, son, I'm not God. And then my follow-up thought was, well, if you're not God, then you must maybe be Jesus. That was just the next thing that popped into my head.
Yeah.
And
on the right level.
You got this cool beard. You got to be Jesus,
And he laughed at that too. He's like, no, son, I'm not Jesus. He explained that his name was...
He must have been the love guru then. That's the only person I can think of that has a beard. And anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
You know what? I would almost agree with you that he's some type of love guru, because I'll tell you what, he really had a tremendous effect on me, and still does to this day. But he told me his name is Drake. He told me that his purpose was to be my guide, help me go wherever I wanted to go in the universe. And he really meant anywhere in the universe I wanted to go, I could go. And
now before you go on to this journey part, I want to ask a question though about when you died. It's about spirits that people see sometimes, like ghosts. Do you think, because you kind of said you really didn't know you were dead at first. I mean, it was such a shock to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wondering if some people have such a toxic or dramatic death that they just don't realize that they're dead, and they kind of stay stuck for a long time.
They do, but it's not because of like happenstance. It's because they refuse to listen to guides.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So like there's times, and I've actually worked with certain spirits and individuals to help them fully embrace crossing over and crossing to where the next step is for them. And I've had it where they just won't listen to the guides. They're like, you're a figment of my imagination. You can't be real. I will only listen to like humans on Earth. So all of a sudden you get a human on Earth telling them, and they're like, oh, maybe this is real. Maybe I'll look into this. And then they look into it, then they cross over. Yeah.
Okay.
So are there in these experiences that you have with these spirits, Are there some that get stuck for very long periods of time and just can't or won't make this transition, or
it's all because of agency or choice. None of them get stuck like frozen in a moment or frozen in a trauma. But what will happen is their trauma creates almost like a psychological cage around them and doesn't let them accept anything except for their trauma. So everywhere they look, they only see their trauma. And there's a process for them as well. It just does take time, a lot of time. But the weird thing is there's no time on that side. So we have unlimited time, but yet there is no time either. So yeah, that was a hard one for me to wrap my brain around. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask, is because we as humans, everything is based off of time. There's a beginning, there's an end.
Yep.
Everything that there is, and as we know, when we move on, there is no time. Time does not exist. It's a human element, and so when you were talking about yourself, like you could be here, and then you could be there, and then you could be here, and then when you were talking about, you saw every bad thing that you did and every good thing that you did. Did you view that almost like a movie, or were you like there?
Oh, I was there. I was there.
In those spots. So
it was an experience like you would say in what's the movie with Scrooge when he went with 3 different
I was thinking of Matthew McConaughey when he goes back and he's in the different levels of the paradigm inside of there.
It's definitely closer to the Matthew McConaughey thing where you're actually inside the events and you're seeing it from inside the events. And not only that,
and then you can move from spot to spot to spot to spot.
You're seeing it simultaneously from your perspective and their perspective at the same time.
Geez.
And you're hearing and feeling what their thoughts and feelings were when you were doing these things. So it's really weird because we get through this life thinking, oh, I made some mistakes, I did some good things. We have no idea like what we're putting on each other as we do certain things, good and bad. We have no idea. Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
And then you mentioned this Drake, was that who you said
Drake,
this person was? Yeah. So how do I explain this? We have a body here on Earth.
That was our dilemma writing the book. How do we explain this?
So do you think you saw Drake as something that would relate to you yourself? So you weren't freaked out, like you didn't see like this orb and be like, what the hell's going on here? You saw something that would be somewhat familiar to you.
So you could relate to whatever.
So you could relate to it. Yeah. But then past that point, if you move on to the next level,
step,
do we lose that consciousness? Because this is one thing I was talking to these guys about, is like, look, I mean, somebody's got facial hair and they got a robe. Well, where do they get the robes from? Is there like a store there that you go to? You got to buy some clothing. You got to get a wash. You got to go get a haircut. I got to dye my hair.
I can explain all of that. And so our bodies here are a copy of our energetic body. Our energetic body is really who we are. That's really who we are. And when
our soul?
Yeah, our soul. And so when we die, we're peeling away the physical body and going back to our energetic body. And here's what's crazy about the energetic body. It's our consciousness that controls everything of the energetic body. It controls what we're seeing that we're wearing as far as clothes. And if we're wearing some, it's because we feel that's the clothes we deserve or we feel comfortable in. And there's a whole hierarchy over on that side in the eternal scheme of things, where there's a whole hierarchy of leadership and stewardship and ministering. And so the color of your clothes actually pertain to all of that. And there's a whole structure. I wasn't allowed to know any of that stuff, but I noticed it right from the get-go, that there was a slight difference in I'm going to call them the helpers. All the helpers had a slight difference in their clothing, and it was just their hierarchical leadership, essentially. But it's your mind, what we would call our mind, because we don't have a brain there. We have our consciousness.
Right, exactly.
And your consciousness is like, I'm going to have long hair now. And here's what's weird. as you approach someone, you will know how this person would accept you the most lovingly. So you will assume the most loving imagery so that this person accepts you. And it's all about synchronicity. You're not doing it to try to prevent them from judging you. You're doing it because you love this other being so much. You want to synchronize to what fits them the best. So the fact that he showed up with long hair and a long white beard, he was essentially matching the imagery of what I thought God would look like, because that fit my paradigm for sure. But instantly he was very clear to tell me, like, I'm not God. I'm here to help you understand and get to know what God is, but I'm here just as your guide. I'm Drake. I'm here to be your guide. Yeah.
So when Alan dies, all of the people who are there to help him are going to be wearing designer shoes.
Exactly.
What are you talking about?
We
He's going to die.
certainly hope
He's
so.
going to die and go directly into the shoe department of heaven. He's just going to go right there.
Well, and Vinny, that's fantastic. That matches then a lot of the near-death experiences I've been reading about, where someone in Calcutta dies and they're not going to see some white guy with a beard. They're going to see someone that they're familiar with.
Yeah,
like even family, right?
I've worked with a ton of people now. I'm part of IANS, which is the International Association of Near-Death Studies. And I've worked with a lot of different members of that group that are from India and from some of the Islamic countries, some of the Middle East, and also some Jews from Israel. And so I've seen a lot of different mixes of these near-death experiences, and all of them see either some type of guide or God that they synchronize to with their belief system 100% of the time. Yeah.
Wow.
Even though as Christians we hope we would hear, oh, you saw our Jesus in your Muslim near-death experience. No. Now, it doesn't mean that Jesus doesn't exist there. It just means the energy that they're seeing, it synchronizes to their belief system. Yeah.
That they're in. So what happened then after, like, do you remember going back into your body? Do you remember that?
So I had a very vivid, meanwhile, my body, they did bring my heart back. My brain did not come back for 3 days. So I was brain dead for 3 days in a coma.
So in a coma. Okay.
Yeah. So clinically brain dead for 3 days. And during those 3 days, I was journeying. I was journeying towards heaven. I actually got to the heaven space. I had to, just to get there, though, I had to take my perfect Christian teachings, and I had to learn a lot more and add a lot more. And here's what it is. People kind of take my experience and they're like, that's gospel, that's this, that's that. And I'm like, nope, that was my gospel. That was what I had to learn to add to what I learned so that I could get to where I needed to go in heaven. Now, if I didn't have the target or the goal to go where I was going, I may have needed to learn a bunch of different things. But I had the goal that I wanted to go to what they call home, which is like the entry level of heaven.
Thanks for listening to 3 Dad Bods, and make sure to catch their past episodes on Spotify, Apple, and Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. And make sure and leave a comment to help stroke their fragile egos.